Okay, so it's time for us to go ahead and get back into our coverage over the X-Men, which also means that it's time for us to continue our coverage over Magneto War. Now, in these next three chapters, we're going to kind of see the idea of what's going on when it comes to Magneto in this war. Now, we're going to pick up with X-Men issue number 86. Now, here's the thing, because issue number 86 finally gives us the answers to the character known as Joseph. Now, when it comes to Joseph, he was a big mystery in the mid 1990s going into the late 1990s. And let me explain why. Because for Joseph, he came out of nowhere. And you have folks wonder, like, if he was the real Magneto, or was he the clone of Magneto, or was he a Magneto from a different reality? Like, what is his backstory? And for Marvel, they kind of tease the idea of us knowing or getting a chance to know his backstory for a couple of years in 1990s until our last video in the middle of Magneto War. Because for Joseph, while he was trying to figure out who he was, he had learned that he was a clone of Magneto. But also he met the woman who had created him, and that would be Astra. Now, for me personally, Marvel dropped the ball with her character because, listen, we learned here that for Astra, she was one of the original members of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants working for Magneto. But apparently, she left the team prior to the team fighting against the X-Men for the first time. So we never got a chance to see her character back in the 1960s or 70s because she had officially left the team. But why did she leave the team? Well, because of Magneto. Apparently, he was emotionally abusing her. Now, the reason why I say supposedly, because again, for Marvel, they dropped the ball with her character. We don't really get a chance to learn more about her actual origin until like 20 years later, really 30 years later. And even then, it's kind of like, not really much information there. Now, I think in my last video, I had said like Magneto had released this EMP across the entire world, and that's not completely false. You see, for Magneto, what he did was he had tapped into the bioelectric Magneto sphere. And so with him being able to tap into that energy spectrum, it's kind of like an EMP, but at the same time, it's also affecting people as well in some ways. But either way, for Magneto, the reason why he's doing this for is to get what he wants, a safe haven for all mutants across the world. He had that in early 1990s, but for the human race, they got rid of that. And so now I'm saying like, no, I want something safe for all mutants to live at. Now, for the X-Men, they're currently stuck right now in the Arctic because thanks to Magneto and his plan right now, the Blackbird is completely shut down. But also this storm, this energy that Magneto is releasing right now is also affecting their powers as well. And so for the X-Men, they are completely stranded right now, just in the middle of the Arctic. But now we switch over to Janosha. Now, Janosha is very important when it comes to Magneto War. You'll see here why in a moment, or really in later chapters of the storyline. But for the idea of Janosha, as we saw, when Ken and Chris Claremont, when he introduced Janosha, it was this country, a nation that was trying to paint this picture of, being perfect. Everyone here is having a good old time. But in reality, they were using mutants as slaves. Now, thanks to the X-Men, those mutants were free. But ever since then, it has been a constant civil war between humans and mutants on Janosha. But also the fact too, like they had other issues as well. For example, the legacy virus. But anyways, when it comes to Janosha, they're sending over Dr. Huxley. Now, she'll become very important for the storyline as well. But we now have to shift over to Joseph and also Astra. Now, for this part right here, it's not really us learning more about Astra or really more Joseph. It's really more her saying like, yes, I'm the person who had officially cloned you and brought you to life. But before I was able to do that, I had to save Magneto first. And that right there really did bother her. Now, the reason why I had to save Magneto first, because after Fatal Attraction, you had Charles Xavier shut down the mind of Magneto. But then when it came to Avalon being destroyed completely, and you had Colossus, and also him crash on Earth, when he disappeared, his mind was still shut off, but she had to save his mind, fix his mind, because if she's going to use him to make Joseph, he had to be almost at perfect health, because if she did not and then clone him to make Joseph, well, for Joseph, he would be an empty mind, an empty shell with not the ability to think at all. And so once she did that, she was then able to finish the cloning process of Magneto. But then once you have Magneto wake up, he was then confronted by Joseph, a younger clone of him. But now we switch over to the X-Men. Now here we are kind of reminded about the Acolytes. Now the Acolytes were just a group of people who looked at Magneto as a god. They truly believed that for Magneto, he can do nothing wrong. And so for the Acolytes, they were assigned to watch over the X-Men while the whole entire thing is going on. But they are calmly chilling inside their own aircraft. Now, you do have Charles appear in his astral form, and he wants to have a conversation with them like, hey, guys, listen. Working with Magneto is completely wrong. Like what he's doing right now is completely wrong. Like you guys should realize that what he's doing is going to hurt relations between mutants and also humans. So why not help me to stop him? For the Acolytes, they don't like Charles. And the reason why, because they feel like Charles failed them as well. Because for Charles, he's the opposite of Magneto, but also for Charles, he didn't really try to give them a second chance in life and invite them into the X-Men. And so for the Acolytes, they don't want to hear him. And so once you do have Charles' astral form go back into his body, for the X-Men right now, their main goal is to, well, for some people, go ahead and travel across the Arctic, find Magneto, and hopefully stop him. Now, for Charles, he's kind of like, hold up, stop. But for Wolverine, he jumps the gun because he thinks that Charles is going to say like, hey, you know what? Let's back off. It's Magneto. But for Wolverine, this man wants revenge against Magneto because, again, fatal attractions, where you have Magneto rip off the adamantium off the bones of Wolverine. But it's Charles saying, I'm not sitting here saying do nothing. Right now, I am thinking of a game plan. Now, I kind of go ahead and shift back over to Astra and also Joseph. And the reason why, because for Astra, she wants to know what happened to Joseph after she had introduced him to Magneto. And the reason why, because she teleported away. That's her power. She teleported away, and you then have the two characters, Magneto and Joseph, began to fight against one another. Now, we're not really told right now who won that battle. And the reason why, because we do shift back over to the UN building. And the reason why, because we do shift over to Gabrielle Haller. And Gabrielle Haller was a longtime friend to Magneto, but also an old-time lover to Charles Xavier as well, and the mother to Legion. Now, for Gabrielle Haller, though, it's her now being informed that you have different countries around the world who are not really trying to reason with Magneto. Like, for example, Russia. Now, for Russia and Magneto, they got some bad blood way back to Chris Claremont days. And so for Russia, they're kind of like, no, this man has gone too far again. It's now time to get rid of him. And so they fire nukes towards Magneto in his base in the Arctic. But when we do switch over to Astra and also for Joseph one last time for this chapter, we see that for Astra, she does learn what happened between the battle Magneto and Joseph had. And we learned that for Magneto, he won the battle, where of course it led to Joseph crash landing in Central America and waking up in that day wondering who the heck he was, as we saw when he first appeared in Marvel Comics and going forward. And so she learned everything about Joseph, his relationship with Rogue, working with the X-Men, trying to build a bond with Quicksilver. She sees everything, but she's not done with him just yet. But we have to switch over to Magneto. Now, to end this chapter, we do see that for Magneto, he does realize what Russia was trying to do, trying to use nukes against him. Now, he was able to get rid of those nukes before they hit him, but of course, those shockwaves are going to hit the X-Men, going to hit a lot of different things in the Arctic, thanks to Magneto blowing up those nukes before they had hit him. Now, as we get into the next chapter of the storyline, we do pick up with Charles Xavier's plan going in motion. Let me explain here, y'all, because as we all know, in the last chapter, we saw nuclear missiles try to hit Magneto, but he made sure they couldn't hit him. Well, the shockwave still happened, and so for the Acolytes, they're well protected right now in their aircraft and the shield the aircraft gives them. But the thing is, the X-Men don't have an aircraft, no shields. So they should be possibly dead. And so we see the X-Men right now just laying there on the ground. And it does seem like, okay, yeah, the X-Men have been officially killed off possibly, but it's not the truth there. Now, for Magneto, his plan is still going in motion, even though those nuclear missiles almost did hit him. Now, for Magneto, what he's trying to achieve right now, keeping this power going, it does take a huge, enormous amount of power for him to use at this moment. It's causing a lot of strain to his body, but the plan must continue on. But below him, we see that Astra and also Joseph have arrived. Now, for Joseph, it does seem like he's being forced right now to help Astra kill off Magneto. Now, of course, she is here for other reasons as well, but her main goal right now is to kill off Magneto. Now, for Astra, she does have a way to control him, to make sure that he does fall in line, follow her orders down to the T. And so you have her say, go inside and get ready for your final battle against Magneto. But now getting back over to the X-Men, we do learn what was Charles Xavier's plan here. You see, for Charles Xavier, he was able to kind of force the Acolytes to expand their shield their aircraft has to protect them as well from the shockwave of nuclear missiles. The X-Men are alive. Once you do have the Acolytes try to come down and make sure the X-Men are dead, you then have the X-Men fight against the Acolytes. And the reason why, because we want to make sure that every single Acolytes do leave their ship so that the X-Men can then sneak on the aircraft and use the aircraft as a way to fly over to where Magneto is at and to hopefully stop him. And so as the battle goes on, that plan does go into motion. Now, we do jump over to the different world leaders, different military leaders at the UN building, kind of wondering what to do with Magneto. Now, they already know that Russia's attack did somewhat slow down Magneto. And so for some people, they're kind of like, dude, go ahead and drop a bunch of nukes in that area. But that would cause a lot of damage to the earth. So of course, you have a lot of folks say no. And so they continue on to wonder, what can they do to officially stop Magneto? And so now we jump back over to Magneto. Now, when we do, it's Magneto realizing that Astra is in the building. Like, she walks in and say, hey, Magneto, and he hates her still because he knows what kind of person she is. Now, for Magneto, it's also him telling us that when he had defeated Joseph, he allowed Joseph to live. And the reason why, because he wanted to use Joseph in a way to kind of pretend to be him while he worked behind the scenes to be able to pull off this massive plan that he has been working on. Now, once you do have the two characters go back and forth, and showing how much they hate one another, you then have Astra attack Magneto. Now, when she does, it does seem like that she does also destroy the machine that Magneto was using. But back at the UN building, we do see Dr. Huxley arrive. Now, when she does arrive, it's her saying like, stop everything. Everyone in the UN building, stop. I have a plan that will basically save us all. And we kind of give Magneto what he wants. Now, we do get a few more pages of us seeing, the X-Men fighting against the Acolytes. And honestly, I'm not going to sit down, show you every single page of the battle, because honestly, once you do have the X-Men being able to get most of the Acolytes off their aircraft, only one person stays behind, but you do have Kitty Pryde being able to take him down. Once you have all the Acolytes removed, you then have the X-Men get on the aircraft and begin to fly over to where Magneto is at. And for the Acolytes, once again, they lose to the X-Men. Now, to close on this chapter, we do switch back over to Magneto and Astra. Now, for Magneto, because he was attacked by Astra and his machine was destroyed, the energy he was using to kind of play or control the Earth is now gone out of control. And so it now threatens the ability to damage permanently damage the atmosphere. Now, you do have Magneto being able to absorb all that energy, but he has no choice. But also for Magneto, it does put strain to his body. Now, he wants to kill off Astra, but then he's confronted by Joseph. And with Joseph being there, it's kind of like, oh, here comes Joseph, y'all. Here comes Joseph. He said, listen, I'm fighting for mutants and man. And so this leads into the next chapter where we do see Magneto getting ready to battle against Joseph. And so now we enter the final chapter to Magneto War. Now, there is an epilogue I'm going to cover in a different video, but when it comes to the final chapter, we don't get a chance to see that battle between Magneto and Joseph. It is very short-lived. I kind of hate that when comics give that battle, like, get ready for the big battle when these two characters, and then like, only 1 or 2 pages and that is it. But when it comes to the battle, it stopped because the X-Men arrived. And so you have Nightcrawler grab Astra and they teleport far away. Now, that part right there is really important. But when it comes to the X-Men, they go after Magneto, not Joseph. Now, for Rogue, she goes in first. But Wolverine, though? Wolverine, this man wants revenge against Magneto. Because again, fatal attractions. You have Magneto rip off the adamantium off the bones of Wolverine. So right now for Logan, it's time to get that revenge. Now, when it comes to Joseph, what he is trying to do is repair the damage that was done in Magneto's spear by, well, Astra and also Magneto. Except while he's doing that, his body is slowly kind of dissolving into energy. He's becoming one with the Magneto spear. If that happens, he's going to basically die. His body cannot handle what he's going through at the moment. You have Charles Xavier trying his best to use his powers as an anchor to keep Joseph here on the reality where he will be alive as an actual person. But right now for Joseph, it does seem like he's trying to go into the Magneto spear, become one with it. Now, for Dr. Huxley, she does get informed that what Joseph is doing right now is fixing the Earth. And she's kind of like, that's great news. Now, her assistant's like, yeah, you should tell the rest of the UN. As soon as he walks out, she burns the documents. And the reason why, because she wants to give Magneto what he actually wants. And we'll see at the very end of this video. But we kind of get into the last few parts of Magneto's war where everything begins to wrap up, because with Nightcrawler keeping Astra away from Joseph, it allowed Joseph a chance to go ahead and continue to fix the Earth, the damage that was done thanks to Magneto and Astra. The problem is that once he does fix the entire Earth, his body gives out. Like, he completely just dissolves and goes away. He becomes one with the Magneto spear and he's gone forever. His body could not handle that kind of strain. Now, when it comes to Magneto, though, when it comes to Magneto, Wolverine wants to fight against him, kill him off once and for all. Once again, for Charles, he's kind of like, no. We are not that kind of people. We don't kill because we want to kill. Like, killing is our last choice. And right now, with Magneto being calm, we can sit down and have a conversation with Magneto. But you didn't have the you didn't have the whole storyline end on the note where you have Dr. Huxley arrive with a few other members of the UN to inform Magneto he does get what he wants. So the whole idea of Magneto War is one of those few storylines where the villain does actually win. Because for Magneto, they do hand over Janosha. Janosha becomes his own country, his whole safe haven for the mutant race. Now, for Wolverine, he's very upset by this. And Wolverine still wants to go after Magneto. But for Charles Xavier, he puts Wolverine to sleep. Now, that could be an issue in a later storyline. But for right now, it's the idea that Magneto was able to get what he wanted. Now, that whole idea in Janosha will lead into our epilogue video for Magneto's war. But with that being said, this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.